Hello, welcome to another episode of Drinking with Comics, New Comic Book Day and a Beer. I'm Sean, and gonna go over my pull, but first, I got something good. My good friend Alex came down from Indiana, where he's going to school, and we hit a couple breweries, and he brought me some beer. I'll get to some of that in the coming episodes. I've been able to save some, which has not been easy because it's all delicious. He went on from here to Huntsville, Alabama to visit a friend and brought me back from Straight to Ale Brewery in Huntsville. This is their red ale. I have not had this yet. On his way back to Indiana, he stopped through Clarksville and dropped this off. And Alex, thank you very, very much. It has not been easy to hold on to this. I think it was about a week ago, but I wanted to drink this on this show. So we had been having a conversation about red ales and how there's just not a lot of them. I believe I've said that on this show before. Oh, so he brought me a crowler, and not always the easiest thing to pour from a giant can. Using my Ween pint glass that my good friend Jay Brown got me, 20 years ago. We had plans to go see Ween on 420 this year. It got canceled, so they're going to reschedule. Hopefully, we'll be able to hit that up. If you don't know Ween, you probably know Ocean Man. You're going to want to look up Chocolate and Cheese. Well, I mean, all the records are amazing. They're an amazing band, but that may be their finest, which is hard to say. All right. So Mike Shin and I are planning on launching a new regular program soon under the Drinking with Comics label. Look for that maybe this week. Hot damn. Now, a lot of that sip was head because honestly, I couldn't wait. I've been waiting like a week to taste this. But this is a very, it's just like a classic red. Reminds me of sitting at Krause's Gaslight in Oklahoma, Illinois, drinking Liney's Red on tap, which always tasted different there than anywhere else I ever had it, whether it was in a can, a bottle, or I don't think Liney's did cans then, maybe, I don't know, or other places on tap. And Krause's had that for years after. I think I don't even know that I'd ever seen Liney's anywhere but Krause's for like the last 5 years it was there. Anyway, whatever. This is delicious. Straight to Ale Brewery, Huntsville, Alabama. Okay, this was a book I had not planned to pick up. George at Rick's Comic City always puts, if you subscribe to Turtles and there's a new #1 sub-series, spin-off series that comes out, he'll put it in your box. You can grab it or you can put it back on the shelf. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Untold Destiny of the Foot Clan #1. Badass cover. There, because there's so many kind of satellite Turtles books or series, I don't know if a lot of the stuff that I'm missing, so I have gaps. And I don't know if that's because of the Armageddon game that I didn't read any of the tie-in stuff, just the core title. Crossovers just drive me fucking crazy. So there's a lot of stuff here, like Casey Jones is with the Foot Clan and they're in Japan. I was like, wait, what? When the fuck did that happen? So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll kind of tool around online. I mean, ultimately, I don't know that it matters, but Turtles 149 came out last week. 150 comes out in 3 weeks in April, and that's the end of that. Sophie Campbell leaves. It starts over with a new series, but continuing this continuity. That was the big one for me. If they had not, I probably would not jumped on. Jason Aaron's writing it. I didn't really read most of what he did with Marvel. Big fan of Scalped. Always thought that would have made the best HBO show. Feels like we should be narrowing in focus to get to that place where this series stops and then the new one starts. I mean, I guess in reality, it's just a new #1. They're not really restarting anything, so maybe that's why. But it seems like there's all this stuff all over the place, and so I wanted to kind of try to figure out where some of the other people are that aren't in the core title. So that's why I grabbed this, and I wasn't disappointed. I mean, again, I didn't have a context for some of what was going on. It didn't matter. Eric Burnham is writing this, unfamiliar. art, Mateus Santaluco, beautiful art. And the big highlight is here we get to see Bebop and Rocksteady kick this like whale mutant guy's ass. I think it's a whale. I can't really tell, but really really cool. Bebop and Rocksteady, love them. So yeah, I don't know. I dug it. If you're reading the core titles book, you don't need to read this, but you know, as a one-off or a satellite series, I don't read most of the Turtles satellite books, but this one I'll read. I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm going to guess 4 issues, but I'm not sure. Here's my favorite book of the week. Cobra Commander number, what are we on? 3? I mean, the cover promises so much, right? Zarana, Cobra Commander. This is why I have these guys here. This is the best use of the Dreadnoks anybody's ever done, in my opinion. I loved this issue so fucking much. They even go into like the file card story of them where like Buzzer is kind of on the outs because he's not really a Dreadnok. He's a teacher that became enthralled with their subculture and lost himself in it. I don't know what. I just was blown away that they went that deep. And there's some imagery in here. They play with the Cobra Commander helmet in a way that I think everybody will love. And there's a reveal. His handler, I think everybody knew who it was. A character, you know, again, going back to this, like the Cobra Law stuff, like it's just so corny, but here it's not. So yeah, Cobra Commander number 3, fucking love this series. 2 issues left, and then they've solicited a Scarlet and a Destro. That's pretty cool. I was reticent about these like specific character miniseries at first instead of just a core Joe title or a core Cobra title or both. But so far, I'm digging this because it's not eschewing the overall story to focus. I mean, it's focusing on these people, but it's also telling aspects of the story. So it's very cool. I'm like, what do I even follow that with? So I followed it with Larry Hama's G.I. Joe, Real American Hero number 305. As of this issue, I'm going to sub to this book. I've been kind of picking it up just out of nostalgia and seeing where it is and what they've done with the characters. And you know, I wasn't totally sold. It's cool to revisit, but I really dig this. And one of the things I'll say, I see it now in a lot of stuff. And it's funny the way what happens in our world is reflected in the stories that we tell, right? And so what I'm talking about is, you know, like for instance, I didn't read Daredevil when this happened, but I remember I'm always kind of aware what happens in books that I like or with characters that I like. And when Wilson Fisk became mayor of New York, it kind of lined up with Trump becoming president. However you feel about that, it's just, it was an obvious like, oh, okay, this is an allegory for that. Whether the writer knew it or not, I mean, in that case, I'm obviously, but here, so both in Turtles, in Real American Hero, and in the X books, we're dealing with what we're seeing really is writers kind of tussling with AI. And as AI really, really becomes more widespread in our lives, like anytime like every other bit of technology, it slips in slowly, and so it's not a shock to the system. But I really feel like it's changing the world. And so we're seeing it in these stories. And in Real American Hero, the really interesting thing that's selling me on this is they have this whole Cobra split where, well, there's the commander and his forces in Springfield. There's Serpentor Khan, which is a whatever generation Serpentor, and Mindbender on Cobra Island. And then there's this Revanche. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's this AI that the origins are obviously in the IDW issues, and I don't know what they are. And I'm not going to seek them out. I'll probably just look it up online, but it is also another faction of Cobra now. And so they're turning Vipers and people into cyborgs, and there's this whole AI component. It's really, really interesting. And it's Larry Hama. I mean, at first I thought, oh, you know, okay, I guess it's with their mutant bomb that goes off on Cobra Island and the cyborgs and stuff. I was like, okay, he kept it realistic for a long, long time, and that was the beauty of the book in the early days. But I'm jumping back in at number 301, and like I haven't read it in 200 issues or more. And how do you write something based in the real world for that long of a continuity? I'm thinking, well, okay, I guess he eventually succumbed to the idea of making a little bit more sci-fi. And while it is that, I don't think it's that sci-fi. I think He's always been a very smart reality-based writer, and he reads a lot. History and technology and whatnot, and it makes its way into the book, and it's made this a really, like, I'm really enjoying this book. It's no longer just a nostalgia tickle. So yeah, G.I. Joe Real American Hero 305. Army of Darkness Forever. This is number 6. I think there's 2 left after this. It was great. I mean, it really, I can't really talk about it, because you'd have to be reading it to really understand. And it's not even a thing of spoilers. It's just, it would take too long to kind of summarize what's going on. But it's good. If you like Army of Darkness and you haven't read any of the other comics, and there's been a million of them, and I've read none of them, I would definitely recommend this. It's a cool continuation of the director's cut. Lemire and Sorrentino's Tenement, Bone Orchard Mythos. This comes to a close. Very satisfying, fucking gorgeous book. Really high concepts that they're playing with here. They're telling like what are almost biblical level stories. And man, there's just some imagery in this that Sorrentino's outdone himself. I don't know where this puts us for whatever's coming next from Bone Orchard. There's like a series or a graphic novel set in the future, but I don't think that comes out till like the end of the year, maybe. I loved this series. I love the Bone Orchard Mythos. This series, the last couple issues especially, really built that world more than any of the other entries in it have so far. 10,000 Black Feathers or The Passageway. Hellblazer, Dead in America, number 3. Simon Spurrier is writing this. It's very modeled after classic Vertigo, a lot like Tinian's Nightmare Country is. I really am digging this series. Constantine's another one of those characters that can get strip mined like Batman or Frank Castle, but I don't feel like I need a monthly or even regular dose, so I'll jump in and jump out. This is the first of these series. I think Spurrier's written 2 others in the last year or 2. It was great. It kind of weaves in just random people. Like, that was always the strength with Sandman and Vertigo, where they'll tell their story by telling it partially through the tale of unrelated people, right? So you get a guy protecting the border down in Texas, and you get a woman coming over from Mexico. There's a conflict that occurs there, but then meanwhile, we have what's going on. The thing with, I'm not even entirely sure what the fuck is going on, but I'm just enjoying it as kind of Vertigo. Like, I know it's considered Black Label. That's really just Vertigo. It's cool to reconnect with Constantine. It's been a while for me. Resurrection of Magneto 3. I feel like 2. I just did 2 on here like not that long ago. Al Ewing. I fucking love this book. The art and the story, which is extremely metaphysical and could really be gobbledygook the way that Rise of the Powers of X has been. It's not. It's wonderful. And, I rolled my eyes right away because I was like, oh, fuck, on the cover. I'm like, is that the fucking Shadow King? One of my least favorite X-Men villains. Just, I don't know. And it is, but I really like the way they used him. They tie him into several other, like, they basically posit that he's appeared and the X-Men have fought him in different guises. So, like, they use the character from X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 226, 227, going back that far. Those are like some of my first issues of X-Men. That's 80s. That's Fall of the Mutants. And there was a storyline with that with Forge, and there was a character, the Adversary, that was like his Native American tribe's version of the devil, kind of. And so he fought the Adversary. It was Mark Silvestri, like, top. I mean, oh, some of my favorite art ever. And so they posit that Annihilation mask that we've just seen in X-Men Red and the Adversary and the First Fallen, but it posits that it's always the Shadow King, that there are different aspects, or like he says, or are we just Legion? So I like tying these other historical villains that the X-Men have had into him. And then meanwhile, Magneto is also facing off with an aspect of him, but also facing off with an aspect of himself. Storm has journeyed into this metaphysical aspect of death and brought him back, and now he's kind of making peace and accepting these other iterations of him and his, various levels of like totalitarianism and whatnot. I'm really curious to see what they do with this. Now, I will tailor saying that with the fact that they released a trailer last week for what happens after Fall of the House of X, and it looked to me, I watched it once, it looked like Krakoa is indeed gone. I'm wondering if they're going to leave it as a character, like there's this embodiment, like a Groot almost, right? And I'm wondering if that's going to remain a character and they're just going to do away with the island because there's images of the school, the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, and all. And I mean, if that's the case, I'm done. To hit the status quo button that fucking hard, I just feel like I understand they didn't want it to get stale, but they could have done so much more with Krakoa and Arakko, especially. If any of that sticks around, maybe I will too. But I mean, honestly, like just the thing with Storm as the kind of liaison to the galaxy for our universe, man, seated on Arakko, I just felt like that was the tip of an iceberg. And if that's abandoned, it's just a fucking shame. Last book, Kieran Gillen's X-Men Forever. Not as gobbledygook as Rise of the Powers of X. I didn't hate this. We're going back and seeing things from the first and second issue of his Immortal X-Men, which is cool. And they're showing us like, oh, we saw part of that, but we didn't get exactly what that person said, or we didn't see this side of it. So that's cool. Man, they spent so much time with this fucking Mother Superior character or whatever, Mother Righteous. I don't think she's that interesting of a character. I think she would have been fine if so much wasn't like hinged on her. And there's like copies, simulacrums of people, doubles, and there's it feels so fucking convoluted. It's unbelievable. This is, I think, the book that this seems like when this ends, I think it's 4 issues. This will be, Rise and Fall, I think, end next month. So this will go for 2 months after that. And then I believe that's the end of it, right? So for better or worse, I'm here for the end of this because I've been here for so long. So X-Men Forever #1. If you're reading everything else, or if you're reading Rise and Fall, like I said, I like this infinitely better than Rise so far. But I mean, Resurrection of Magneto and Fall of the House of X so far are the ones that I like. I love this. I love Magneto. So that's the poll. Look for Mike and I's new show coming soon. And until then, cheers. Hi, I'm Sean. Join me and my friends every week for the Horror Vision, where we talk about horror movies.